I never imagined my life would shatter this completely. But when I saw those 2 lines on the test, my entire body went silent. I was pregnant, and the father, he was the one person I despised most in this world. Elias Brennan. Just thinking his name makes my chest tighten painfully. He's an alpha, arrogant, ruthless, and worst of all, he's my business rival. Our families have hated each other for generations. A feud so deep it's woven into our very identities. But one night, one stupid, reckless night changed everything. 4 days of heat when I lost all control, and Elias, somehow he appeared. I sat in my cramped apartment bathroom, gripping the pregnancy test like it might disappear if I held it tight enough. His scent still haunts my mind, pine, leather, and something darker that unsettles me to my core. I want to forget him, need to erase that night from existence. But my body remembers. During heat I was frantic, desperate, completely out of control, and Elias was in my room as if he'd always belonged there. What do? I whispered to myself, voice trembling. My phone buzzed with a notification. Business meeting. Today. With him. The phone slipped from my shaking hands and clattered onto the tile floor. Elias would see me today, and he's an alpha, they always notice. Alphas can sense when someone carries their child. I knew he'd figure it out soon, no matter how hard I tried to hide it. I forced myself to look in the mirror. Dark circles shadowed my eyes. My cheeks looked hollow, pale. I was a complete mess. My white dress shirt hung looser than usual. Maybe just my imagination, but I could feel my body changing already. Nobody knew yet, but how long could I keep this secret when even my scent was shifting? By the time I reached the office, I'd mentally prepared myself. I wouldn't meet his eyes during the entire meeting, but when I walked into the conference room, he was already there. Navy suit fitted perfectly to his broad frame, dark blonde hair slightly messy, but deliberately styled, and those gray eyes that immediately told me today would be difficult. Francis. He said my name, so naturally, as if he had every right to be close to me. You look exhausted. I forced a smile. Business stress, you know how it is. But Elias only smiled back, that expression mixing confidence with suspicion. Or perhaps something else. The meeting began. Numbers, proposals, strategic debates. Everything seemed normal on the surface. I tried focusing on the spreadsheets and projections, but my mind stayed locked on one devastating truth. His child was growing inside me. We're enemies. We could never be together. And I hate him, or at least I used to. Yet when he casually placed his hand on the conference table and glanced my way, my heart responded with an unfamiliar rhythm. This is wrong. Everything about this situation is catastrophically wrong. I'm an omega, he's an alpha, and our families want to destroy each other. When the meeting finally ended, I tried escaping quickly, but Elias blocked my path, his body filling the doorway completely. Francis, he said quietly, but his voice carried an edge that made me freeze. Something's different. I can see it clearly. Tell me what's going on. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't lie to him. Alphas can detect deception instantly. But the truth was infinitely more dangerous. I closed my eyes and tried steadying myself. Nothing's wrong, Elias. Just tired from work. Elias stepped closer, close enough that I felt his body heat radiating toward me. His scent surrounded me again, and my body reacted instinctively despite my resistance. Don't lie to me, Omega. And in that moment, I knew this secret wouldn't last much longer. He already suspected something, and when alphas start doubting, they investigate, relentlessly, obsessively, until they uncover every hidden truth. The weight of what was coming pressed down on me. I couldn't avoid him forever. The biology between us, the undeniable connection forming because of this pregnancy, would eventually force everything into the open. My carefully constructed walls were already crumbling, and Elias Brennan stood at the center of the destruction, waiting for answers I wasn't ready to give. I needed time to think, to plan, to figure out how to handle this impossible situation. But time felt like a luxury I no longer possessed. Every day my scent would grow sweeter, my body would show more signs, and Elias would piece together the puzzle I was desperately trying to keep hidden. I have to go, I managed to say, slipping past him before he could respond. I practically ran to the elevator, feeling his intense gaze burning into my back. The doors closed and I finally allowed myself to breathe. But it wasn't relief I felt. It was the terrible certainty that this was only the beginning. Elias wouldn't let this go. He never abandoned anything he considered his. And somehow, despite all our history and hatred, I'd become exactly that. The pregnancy test sat in my jacket pocket like a lead weight, physical evidence of the night that changed everything. A night I barely remembered through the haze of heat, when instinct overpowered reason and enemies became something far more complicated. I thought about the child growing inside me. Half mine, half his. A bridge between two families who'd rather see each other ruined than reconciled. What kind of life could this child possibly have? What kind of future was I bringing them into? But beneath the fear and confusion, something else stirred. Something I wasn't ready to acknowledge or name. Because admitting it would mean accepting that everything I thought I knew about Elias Brennan, about our relationship, about myself, might be completely wrong. The elevator reached the ground floor, and I stepped out into the lobby, my mind spinning with questions that had no easy answers. I needed to disappear, to hide until I figured out my next move. But deep down, I knew hiding was impossible. Not from an alpha like Elias. Not when I carried something that belonged to him as much as it belonged to me. I returned to my apartment and collapsed against the door the moment it closed. Hands pressed against my knees as I struggled to catch my breath. My heart pounded violently, like I'd just finished a marathon. Elias had looked at me so intensely today, as if searching for something specific, trying to solve a puzzle only he could see. Maybe he already knew. Or maybe I was just paranoid. "Francis, get yourself together," I whispered, pressing my palm against my chest, trying to slow my racing pulse. But the panic wouldn't subside. The truth was simple and terrifying. I couldn't control this anymore, and that scared me more than anything. Were these pregnancy hormones or just pure fear? I couldn't tell anymore. I knew alphas could track the scent of their own children, especially when the omega stayed close to them. My scent was already changing, becoming slightly sweeter, softer, and if Elias discovered the truth, what then? Would he take the child? Force me to terminate the pregnancy? Or worse, would he claim me as property the way some alphas treated omegas? My phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with a message from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Tomorrow. Don't avoid me." I stared at the words. Definitely Elias. His communication style was always this direct and commanding. But how could I face him? My condition was deteriorating. Morning sickness hadn't officially started yet, but exhaustion crushed me constantly, and every time I looked in the mirror I saw a stranger staring back. I tossed the phone aside and lay down on the couch, draping one arm over my face. The moment I closed my eyes, that night replayed in vivid detail. Elias's hand on my waist, his rough voice in my ear, his scent drowning me in sensation. During heat I'd been so weak I couldn't think straight. The pull between alphas and omegas is biological, uncontrollable, and that night it was so powerful that neither of us had any defenses left. But now I was pregnant. And the child belonged to Elias Brennan, the man my family despised, the person I'd competed against my entire professional life. Someone who turned every business deal into warfare. This felt like a nightmare I couldn't escape, a trap closing around me with no exit. The next morning, I forced myself to go to the office, because avoidance wouldn't solve anything. I couldn't dodge meetings indefinitely. But when I entered the lobby, Elias was already there. Sleek black suit, arms crossed, clearly waiting. His eyes found me instantly. My steps faltered. "Francis," he said quietly, voice calm but absolutely firm. "I told you not to avoid me." I swallowed hard and straightened my shoulders, trying to project confidence I absolutely didn't feel. "I'm not avoiding you. I was busy yesterday." Elias raised one eyebrow, obviously unconvinced. Busy? Or afraid to talk to me? I looked directly at him, suppressing my omega instincts that screamed at me to submit. This alpha had always challenged me, but today I couldn't afford to lose. "What do you want from me, Elias?" He smiled, but the expression never reached his gray eyes. "Coffee? Something simple. We need to have a conversation." I reluctantly agreed because I knew continued avoidance would only increase his suspicion. We walked to a quiet cafe near the office. The silence between us felt uncomfortable. Tense, Elias ordered his black coffee and watched me like he was reading every micro-expression, cataloging each tiny detail. Francis, you don't look well at all. Tell me the truth, he said bluntly. Once we sat down, I felt like my throat was closing. I'm fine, Elias. Just a bit tired. No, you're not, he said firmly, leaning forward slightly. And I think I know exactly why. My heart literally skipped a beat. Under the table, my hand clenched against my thigh. Your scent, it's different. Sweeter. Softer. Elias observed as if this was completely routine, though his eyes remained intensely focused. And alphas are extremely sensitive to these changes. Francis. You know that. I tightened my fists under the table, nails digging into my palms. You're overthinking this, Elias. Maybe I'm using a different cologne. Elias leaned even closer, and his voice dropped lower. Am I? Because I don't think so. I think you're hiding something from me. And I intend to find out what. Panic rose in my chest. If he was going to discover the truth anyway, I'd rather leave on my own terms than let him corner me. I pushed my chair back and stood abruptly. I don't want to discuss this with you, Elias. Not now, not like this. I started toward the exit, but Elias caught my wrist, gentle but completely firm. Francis, running away won't change reality, he said quietly. I yanked my hand free. Watch me. I fled the cafe, but I knew this conversation was only delayed, not cancelled. This was just the beginning, and Elias Brennan never accepted defeat. He was persistent, methodical, and when he wanted answers, he always found them. As I walked quickly down the street, my mind raced through scenarios. How long before my body showed undeniable signs? How long before he cornered me somewhere I couldn't escape? How long before everyone knew? The child inside me was a ticking clock, counting down to the moment when all my secrets would explode into the open. And when that happened, I had no idea what Elias would do, or what I would do. I touched my stomach briefly, feeling nothing yet but knowing something profound was growing there. Something that connected me to my greatest enemy in a way I never imagined possible. A bond I couldn't break, no matter how desperately I wanted to. The future terrified me, but I couldn't run forever. For 2 days I successfully avoided Elias, canceled meetings, ignored calls, even changed my office schedule to minimize any chance of running into him. But how long can an omega really hide from an alpha, especially when carrying his child? My body was already betraying me with changes I couldn't ignore. Shirts no longer fit properly, mild nausea started creeping in during mornings, and worst of all, the weakness that hit me every time I tried standing after waking up was becoming impossible to manage. I'd considered going to a doctor to confirm everything officially, but before I could make that appointment, a much bigger problem arrived at my doorstep. Elias came to my home, completely unannounced. When I opened the door, he stood there in a black jacket, jaw tight, eyes fixed on me with laser-like intensity. In that instant, I understood there was no escape left. He'd come for answers, and he wouldn't leave without them. Francis, he said quietly, but his voice carried undeniable intensity. Enough running. We're talking now. I stepped back instinctively. You have no right to come here, Elias. This is my home. Rights? Elias stepped inside, and I didn't try stopping him because deep down I knew this confrontation was inevitable. He closed the door behind him. I think I have plenty of rights, Francis, especially when you're carrying my child. My entire body froze. My breath stopped. He knew. How? I don't understand what you mean, I said, but my voice came out so weak the lie was painfully obvious. Don't lie to me. Elias moved closer until we stood only a few feet apart. I'm an alpha, Francis. I can sense it. The changes in your scent, your body language, the fear in your eyes. Everything tells me the truth. And you've been running from me like I'm your enemy. You are. I raised my voice, emotions finally spilling over. We've always been enemies. Elias, your family and mine share nothing except hatred. And now, this. I touched my stomach without thinking. This is a mistake. An error that happened that night. Elias's eyes tightened and pain flashed briefly across his features. He took a deep breath as if controlling himself. A mistake? Francis, a child is never a mistake. Never. And if you think I'm going to abandon you to deal with this alone, you're completely wrong. I don't want anything from you, I said louder, tears forming in my eyes despite my best efforts. I'll handle this, alone, like I've handled everything else in my life. Elias suddenly gripped my shoulders gently but firmly. Alone? Francis, do you really think a pregnant Omega can survive this by yourself? Without any support? Your body is already weakening. I can see the dark circles, the weight loss. You're not taking proper care of yourself. His touch broke something inside me. Alpha instinct. My body biologically craved his presence, his protection, no matter how much my mind resisted. But I was still fighting. I'll manage, I whispered, avoiding his eyes. Elias cupped my face in his hand, thumb moving gently across my cheek. I believe you could. You're strong, Francis. But you don't have to do this alone. You need protection, care, and your child needs. Our child, I interrupted, and it was the first time he'd heard me say our instead of just your. I'd finally accepted it, and Elias's expression transformed, softer, vulnerable, genuine. Yes, he said slowly, as if tasting the word. Our child. I looked at him, truly looked at him. In that moment something fundamental shifted between us. This wasn't just about old family hatred anymore. It was far more complicated, layered with new meaning. The pregnancy connected us biologically, emotionally. The past still created rifts between our families, but this present moment, this belonged to both of us. I still hate you, I said, but my voice lacked strength, lacked conviction. Elias smiled. For the first time it was gentle, completely without arrogance. I know, and maybe you have good reasons. But Francis, he took my hand and placed it against his chest, where I could feel his heartbeat pulsing steady and strong. But now we both share a responsibility. There's a connection between us that's biological, undeniable, and I won't leave you alone, Francis. No matter how angry you are with me, no matter how much your family hates mine, I'm here, and I'm staying. I couldn't speak because words failed me completely. I just let my hand remain in his, feeling his heartbeat, and for the first time in 2 days, I felt slightly safe. Maybe I didn't want to be alone through all of this. The reality of our situation settled over me like a heavy blanket. This wasn't going away. The child growing inside me was real, permanent, a living testament to a night that defied all logic and history. And Elias, he wasn't going to disappear. For better or worse, we were bound together now. I thought about what came next. Telling my family would be catastrophic. They'd see this as the ultimate betrayal, fraternizing with the enemy in the most intimate way possible. They might disown me entirely. The business complications alone would be nightmarish, and Elias's family would probably react with equal horror. But looking at him now, seeing genuine concern and determination in his eyes, instead of the cold calculation I'd always associated with him, I wondered if maybe I'd been wrong about some things. Not everything, we still had legitimate reasons for our rivalry, but perhaps the person standing in front of me was more complex than the villain I'd constructed in my mind. What happens now? I asked quietly. Elias's grip on my hand tightened slightly. Now we figure this out together, step by step, starting with making sure you and the baby are healthy and safe. The certainty in his voice should have annoyed me. Instead, it felt oddly reassuring. Like maybe, just maybe, I didn't have to carry this entire burden alone. Like maybe having this alpha, standing beside me wasn't the worst thing that could happen. I wasn't ready to forgive everything. Wasn't ready to forget our history. But I was ready to accept that our future had fundamentally changed, and fighting against that reality would only hurt everyone involved. Especially the innocent life depending on both of us. Okay? I whispered. Together. But that doesn't mean I trust you completely yet. Elias nodded, understanding in his eyes. I'll earn it, however long it takes. And somehow I believed him. Elias was in my home, and the feeling was so surreal I was still processing it. Our animosity ran deep. Business wars, family feuds, cold stares across conference rooms. But now he sat here in a small living room on the sofa, as if he belonged. And maybe, now he did. I stood in the kitchen attempting to make coffee, but my hands trembled slightly. Whether from nerves or hormones, I couldn't tell. Francis, Elias called from the other room. Come out here. Coffee isn't good for you right now. I turned around, annoyed. I can handle 1 cup, Elias. I'm not that fragile. No, he said firmly, standing up. Omegas in pregnancy should avoid caffeine. If you didn't know that, I'm telling you now. Any doctor will say the same. My irritation flared, partially because he was correct. I don't need your lectures. You can't control me like I'm your property. Elias stood and approached slowly, crossing the small kitchen space easily. His height exceeded mine considerably, so he bent down slightly to look directly into my eyes. I'm not controlling you, Francis. I'm caring for you. Understand the difference. If I were controlling, I'd force you to do many things. But I'm only suggesting what's safe. I said nothing because his logic was sound, even though I hated admitting it. His scent, that pine and dark leather combination, weakened me again, melting my defenses. My body responded to the alpha presence automatically, biologically programmed, but my mind still fought against surrendering completely. Elias gently took my wrist and guided me to the sofa, almost leading me. Sit down. Rest. I'll order something healthy for you. I looked at him, shocked, sitting down slowly. You'll order food? Elias Brennan is going to order takeout? Yes, he said confidently, a slight smile playing on his lips. I'm an alpha. Your well-being and our child's well-being are now my responsibility. Accept it or not, Francis, this is biological truth, and I take my responsibilities seriously. My heart began racing. Nobody had ever prioritized me this way. Never. Omegas always struggle for independence in society, and my family always taught me to take care of myself. Never depend on anyone. But now Elias, who was technically my enemy, my rival, was caring for me as if it were his natural right. He pulled out his phone and ordered something. Greek salad, grilled chicken, fresh juice, healthy items I usually ignored. Then he put his phone down and looked at me seriously. Tell me, have you seen a doctor officially? I lowered my gaze, fingers fidgeting. Not yet. Why not? His voice held concern, not judgment. Because I wasn't mentally ready. I said honestly, I was so busy trying to accept this, so lost in panic, that I didn't properly think about seeing a doctor. After a few seconds of silence, Elias leaned forward and said, Tomorrow you're coming with me. I'll arrange an appointment with the best obstetrician who specializes in omega pregnancies. And you will come, Francis. No arguments. I gave him a challenging look, my stubborn side emerging. And if I refuse? Elias's jaw tightened slightly, but he controlled himself. I'll never physically force you. This is your choice. But Francis, think logically. Your health and your baby are both important. If you can go alone, fine. I'll accept that. But if you want my support, I'm here. Always. My throat felt tight with emotions. Sometimes Elias was so straightforward and honest that I couldn't defend myself or maintain my walls. All right, I said quietly after a moment. I'll go. With you. Elias smiled with satisfaction, almost relieved, but then he said something that shocked me internally. And one more thing, Francis. Eventually you'll have to tell your family. I know this is difficult, but hiding it will create complications. Emotional, physical, social. The color literally drained from my face. Elias, my family hates you. It's generational hatred. If they find out I'm carrying your child. You're what? He challenged softly. Your alpha? Or your child's father? Both. Both. I said somewhat harshly, my voice cracking. They'll disown me without thinking twice. I'll become a shame to the family. The disappointment. Elias took another step closer and knelt in front of me, so we were at eye level. Francis, your family is wrong if they abandon you at this time. If they won't support you when you need it most, then they're not family. And if that happens, then I'll become your family. I'll support you. I looked at him, tears threatening. There was no lie in his eyes. No manipulation. He was genuinely serious. Why? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Why do you care so much? We've always been enemies. Elias took a deep breath, and he placed his hand on my cheek tenderly. His thumb lightly touched my skin. Because Francis, you're my omega. Biologically, emotionally, whether you accept it now or not. And what happened between us that night? It wasn't just an accident for me. My heart literally stopped. What do you mean? I mean, I don't hate you. I never have, Francis. It's just because of our families, because of business rivalry. I could never get close to you. But I've always noticed you. Your strength, your determination. You're different. I didn't know what to say. What could I say? Elias Brennan, arrogant, powerful, ruthless alpha, was now kneeling before me saying he'd noticed me, that he cared. I simply said, fighting my own feelings, let's go to the doctor tomorrow. But that doesn't mean I've completely forgiven you. Or that we're— Elias smiled lightly, understanding. Fair enough, Francis. I can wait until you're ready. And in that moment, something shifted. Maybe we were moving from animosity towards something else. Slowly, carefully. But we were moving. The food arrived shortly after, and Elias insisted on serving it properly, arranging everything on plates like we were at a restaurant rather than eating takeout. It was such a small gesture, but it revealed something about him I'd never seen before. Attentiveness, genuine care beyond the cold businessman exterior. You don't have to do all this, I said quietly, watching him work. I want to, he replied simply. Get used to it, Francis. I'm not going anywhere. That statement should have annoyed me, should have triggered my independence. Instead, it brought an unexpected warmth that spread through my chest. Maybe being alone all the time wasn't as necessary as I'd convinced myself. Maybe accepting help wasn't weakness. We ate in relative silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt almost domestic, natural, like we'd done this 1,000 times before instead of just beginning. Every so often, our eyes would meet, and something unspoken passed between us. Audigent perhaps, that everything had changed and there was no going back. After we finished, Elias cleaned up without being asked, moving around my small kitchen like he'd memorized the layout. I watched him, this alpha who'd been my adversary for so long, now washing dishes in my sink. The absurdity and rightness of it struck me simultaneously. Elias, I said softly. He turned, hands still wet. Yes? Thank you for being here. For all of this. His expression softened in a way I'd never witnessed before. You don't have to thank me, Francis. This is where I want to be. And somehow I believed him completely. The doctor's appointment arrived and my nerves were overwhelming. Elias came in his sleek black car that morning and picked me up exactly on time. I hadn't invited him, but he'd already planned everything. Typical alpha behavior. I wanted to resist. Wanted to reclaim some control, but my energy was completely depleted. Pregnancy was physically exhausting me more each day. We waited in a private area at the clinic. Mostly awkward silence filled the space. I nervously fidgeted with my hands, fingers interlocking then separating repeatedly. Elias suddenly took my hand, warm, steady. Relax, Francis, he said softly, his voice carrying unusual tenderness. Everything will be fine. I'm here. I looked at him. His gray eyes held a calmness that temporarily gave me peace, grounding me. But still, fear lurked deep inside. The doctor would perform an ultrasound today. We'd see the baby on screen for the first time. And then, this would all become completely real. No more denial. Francis Carter, a nurse, called professionally. We both entered the examination room together. The doctor, Dr. Allen, was a friendly middle-aged beta, with kind eyes. He seated us and calmly explained the process. First, some basic questions. Last heat cycle, symptoms, medical history. Then he began preparing the ultrasound machine, setting up the screen. So, are you two a couple? Dr. Allen asked casually while preparing equipment. I froze completely. Elias instantly replied smoothly. Yes. The situation is complicated, but yes, we're together. My eyes automatically went to Elias, surprised. He gave me a reassuring look, a subtle nod. I could have corrected the doctor, but I didn't. Because technically, we were connected now, whether officially a couple or not. Biologically, we already were. Dr. Allen applied cool gel to my belly and positioned the ultrasound wand carefully. The screen began showing movements, grainy and unclear initially. And then, a tiny shape appeared. Small. And the sound of a heartbeat echoed through the room. Thump, 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 thump. I held my breath completely. It was real. My baby. Our baby. Life existed in that small shape, a heartbeat pulsing with determination. Elias's hand gripped mine tightly, his hold firm. I looked at him, and for the first time I saw tears in Elias's eyes, actual moisture gathering. He was overwhelmed too, emotionally struck. "The baby is healthy," Dr. Allen said with a smile, his voice warm. "Approximately 8 weeks along. Everything appears normal developmentally. The heartbeat is strong. You just need proper rest and nutritious diet, Francis. And regular checkups." I simply nodded mechanically. Words completely escaped me. Emotions overwhelmed everything. The doctor wrote some prescriptions, prenatal vitamins, the diet chart, the next appointment schedule. Everything became a blur. I only stared at the screen where the baby's image remained frozen. When we left the clinic, fresh air hit me, and I took a long breath. Elias still held my hand, making no attempt to release it. We walked quietly to the car. Sitting in the car, I suddenly asked Elias, my voice small, "Elias, doesn't all this scare you? Such a huge responsibility." He paused before starting the car and turned toward me completely. "Scared? Francis, I'm honestly terrified. But you're with me. And as long as you're here, I can handle anything. We'll handle it together." My chest tightened with emotions. I wanted to be angry with him, to believe he was only reacting from alpha instinct biologically. But the truth was, I was slowly starting to feel comfortable with his presence. Safe. We began driving quietly, but then Elias's phone rang loudly. He checked the caller ID and immediately tensed visibly. "It's my father." My stomach twisted painfully. Elias's father, Richard Brennan, powerful businessman, dominant alpha, and the biggest reason for our family's generational hatred. He was ruthless in business and personal life alike. Elias answered reluctantly. "Yes, father." I tried listening to the voice on the other end. Elias's face progressively hardened. Jaw clenched, eyes tight. He spoke minimally for a few minutes, then abruptly said, "I'll handle it my way," and cut the call. I cautiously asked, "What happened? Is everything all right?" Elias kept his jaw clenched, knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Father has received some hints that I've been spending time with you frequently. He investigated a little, and now, he wants to meet you personally. Soon." My heart gave a panicked beat. "No, I can't meet your father, Elias. He hates me. Hates my family. If he finds out I'm pregnant with your child." "Francis, listen to me," Elias tried interrupting. "No, Elias," I said strongly, my voice rising. "Your father has hurt my family so much in the past, cheated in business deals, destroyed reputations. And if he finds out my truth, he'll ruin me. He might try taking the baby or force me to disappear. I can't meet him." Elias suddenly pulled the car to the side and cupped my face in both hands firmly. "Francis, look at me. I will protect you. He won't do anything to you. I won't allow it, but you need to mentally prepare yourself eventually, because eventually everyone will know. We can't hide this forever." My mind spun. Everything was happening so fast. First discovering the pregnancy, then Elias getting involved, and now his family too. I was already overwhelmed physically and emotionally. Elias suddenly pulled me into his arms. A tight hug, protective. For the first time he was this emotionally close, vulnerable. "I'm with you, Francis, always. Whatever my father says, whatever the world thinks. You and this baby, you're both my priority." And in that moment I surrendered to his embrace. Stopped fighting. Because I'd realized realistically, I couldn't fight this situation alone anymore. I needed help. And Elias, maybe he would genuinely stand beside me. As we sat there on the side of the road, wrapped in each other, I felt something fundamental shift inside me. The walls I'd built so carefully were crumbling brick by brick, and maybe that wasn't such a terrible thing after all. "What do we do about your father?" I asked quietly against his shoulder. "We face him together," Elias said firmly. "When you're ready, not before. And if I'm never ready, then we deal with that too." But Francis, hiding forever isn't an option. Eventually this becomes public knowledge. Better to control the narrative ourselves than let others write it for us. He was right, and I knew it. But knowing something intellectually and accepting it emotionally were two very different things. Still, with Elias holding me like this, maybe I could find the courage eventually. Okay, I whispered. But not yet, give me time. All the time you need, he promised. And I believed him. 2 weeks passed since that clinic visit, and surprisingly, those weeks were relatively smooth. Elias was with me almost daily, sometimes at my apartment, sometimes meeting for lunch at the office. He'd started caring for me naturally, without being overbearing. Meals on time, vitamins regularly, doctor appointments scheduled. Everything was organized. And my family, I still hadn't told them, and guilt was slowly building. But fear outweighed the guilt. Elias's father, Richard Brennan, had contacted him multiple times. Messages, calls. But Elias firmly refused every time. Not yet, he'd clearly told his father on one call when I was nearby. Francis isn't ready, and I won't force him. That moment brought me significant peace. Knowing Elias stood on my side even against his own powerful father, standing against his family for me. One evening when we were at my apartment, I was curled up on the sofa and Elias was making something in the kitchen. He suddenly said casually but seriously, "Francis, move in with me." I sat up, shocked. "What?" Elias emerged from the kitchen, dish towel in hand. "Move in. To my penthouse. Your apartment here is small and has limited basic amenities. You need proper care, space, and it'll be a their environment for the baby too." I hesitated, my mind racing. "Elias, this can't happen so fast. We're still, why can't it be fast?" he challenged gently, sitting beside me. "Francis, you're pregnant. With my child. Living alone in this small apartment is risky for your health. What if there's an emergency? I want to give you a safe environment. Proper support." I was about to respond defensively, but Elias took my hand in both of his. "Francis, look, you can't do everything alone and you don't need to. I want to give you and our baby the best. Trust me. Please, trust." That word carried so much weight, so many implications. I never imagined I'd trust Elias Brennan, my business rival, family enemy. But now, everything was different. Either he'd changed for me, or I'd changed. Or both. "All right," I said slowly, carefully. "But on a temporary basis, just until the baby arrives." Elias smiled. Genuine. Relieved. "Fine. Temporary. Whatever makes you comfortable." The following week I moved into Elias's penthouse, and honestly the place was stunning. Spacious modern interiors. Floor-to-ceiling glass windows offering breathtaking city views. But most importantly, there was one room Elias had already designated for the nursery. He'd placed furniture catalogs there, color swatches, already begun planning. "When did you do this?" I asked, shocked, when he showed me the room for the first time. "When you agreed to move in," Elias said simply, casual but excitement visible in his eyes. "I don't wait when I need to do something, Francis. You know that about me." I looked at him, this alpha who was so possessive and protective. And me? I was slowly being pulled toward him emotionally. We were already biologically connected, but now emotional walls were breaking down too. That night I was alone in my new room, comfortably furnished, soft bed, peaceful atmosphere. Elias had given me proper space without pressure, respecting boundaries. But around 10 p.m., there was a soft knock on the door. It was him in casual clothes, sweatpants and a simple t-shirt, a mug in hand. "Herbal tea," he clarified when I looked at him with playful suspicion. "Chamomile. Caffeine-free and relaxing. The doctor recommended it." I smiled genuinely. "You've done extensive research on pregnancy." "Very extensive," Elias said, sitting carefully on the bed's edge. "You and the baby deserve the best, so I want to be prepared for everything." We sat in silence for a while. Comfortable silence. Then I suddenly asked, voice soft, "Elias, do you ever think all this was fate? That we were meant to end up here?" Elias looked at me thoughtfully. "Fate? Francis, I don't know if destiny exists philosophically. But one thing is clear. Being with you has given me what I never thought I deserved. Happiness. Purpose. Family." My heart tightened. "Meaning?" Elias took a long breath, allowing vulnerable honesty. "Francis, I've been attracted to you for a very long time. Secretly. Because of family rivalry, I could never say it openly. Never approach you. But that night during your heat, when you accidentally called me desperately, I couldn't stop myself from coming to you. I wanted to help you. wanted to be near you. I looked at him, shocked, processing this revelation. You felt this before? Yes, he admitted softly. I love you, Francis. Maybe I have for a while now, silently. And now, when you're carrying my child, when you're here with me, I'll never let you go. Never. Tears filled my eyes, overwhelming emotions flooding through me. Years of animosity, rivalry, and now this confession. There was fear, confusion, but also relief. Relief that I wasn't alone in these feelings. Elias cupped my face gently in his hand, wiping away a tear. You're crying? Did I say something wrong? No, I said quickly, voice thick with emotion. I feel the same. I also. Elias kissed me suddenly. Soft, gentle, respectful, completely different from the rough passion of that heat night. This kiss was entirely different. It held love, tenderness, a promise of the future. When he slowly pulled back, he said softly, You don't need to finish that sentence right now. I'll wait patiently, until your heart is completely ready, until you're comfortable. But I was already ready emotionally. I kissed him again. This time I initiated it, deeper, more certain, and whispered against his lips. I love you, Elias. I've always been afraid to admit it, because of family, because of rivalry. But not anymore. Now I'm certain. Elias hugged me tightly, arms secure and warm. Our baby will have the best life, Francis, the best upbringing. And you are my life, my everything. That night, I finally understood. Family rivalry was small, animosity temporary. But love and this baby, these two things were strong enough to bind us permanently. And now I was completely ready for the fee. With Elias, with our child, with our new family. We'd chosen a new path. Against expectations. Against families. Against history. But this was our path. And we were together in it, facing whatever came next as partners rather than enemies. The transformation was complete, and there was no going back to who we used to be. As I fell asleep that night in Elias's arms, I felt peace for the first time in weeks. Whatever challenges lay ahead, his father's disapproval, my family's potential rejection, societal judgment, we'd face them together, and that made all the difference.